Hey guys, so today is my birthday, so happy birthday to me. And I figured that today I'm going to go ahead and go over guard retention a bit, okay? Let me give you some more light here. And so we're talking about guard retention. Again, like when it comes to like side control escapes, the way that you're going to basically defend a guard pass is going to be the same way that it's going to be contingent in the same way as, you know, a side control escape would be, right? So, you know, you have to pay attention to what people are trying to do, where people's hands are and all that in order to maintain guard. So first, before we get into any individual thing, we're going to go ahead and talk about the guard pass that we're going to be defending for each one of these. So the first one is going to be like the guard break, right? And so, you know, we have a couple different classes of guard breaks, right? So, you know, the couple that I think are going to be the most common are going to be either either the knee to the middle of the butt pass where you drop backwards, or you're going to post your leg up and shut their leg down, or you're going to stand. And then you can come down to a knee punch type pass, or you can do a leg shuck. And each one of these breaks are going to have something different to them that's going to give them, that you have to address each one differently. So let's talk about the first one first, right? So let's go ahead and grab my partner here. Not that it matters too much because he doesn't have legs, but so his legs are around me and I'm in guard. My shoulders are in further than my hips. The way I like to think about it is I've got a very bad rounded back here, right? My tail's tucked like a scared dog, but my shoulders are forward, but I'm not leaning forward, right? I'm actually trying to have my base as wide as possible with my butt sunken down as much as possible here. So I've got a very low center of gravity here, and because I am riding my back and my shoulders are slightly in front of my hips with my tail stuck like a scared dog, it's hard for me to be pushed back and it's hard for me to be pulled forward. I've got a nice wide sunken base, so it's hard for me to get tilted to one side or the other, right? So when I'm in that position and I know that I'm pretty good here, and notice guys, different people will do this differently. Like when it comes to the toe position, right, is they'll either be on their toes or they'll be down. And it comes down to a matter of preference. You know, I've been told one way or another you're going to have a higher risk for either position of breaking your toes, right? If I were to be pushed back and I rolled over my foot with my feet down, then I could break my toes. If I'm up here on my toes, a couple things are happening, right? I could still have to be put into different positions that are going to hurt my toes, but also my center of gravity is lifted up, right? So I'm going to be easier to be knocked over from that high position. So, you know, I tend to prefer to have my feet flat and my hips sunken, right? So from here, right, for that first pass, what we need to do is we need to pressure in onto the hips here. We're going to tuck our tail like a scared dog and drive with our tailbone up, and I'm going to put my weight down. So he's carrying most of my weight now on those hips, right? I don't want to unroot myself because again, we're going to be easier to get knocked over. But because I've got his hips hopefully pinned to the ground, it's going to be hard for him to start to. Well, he doesn't. You know, his legs aren't on the ground, so he's not going to really be able to bridge to knock me over. He's not going to really be able to turn that easily because I'm pinning his hips down. But you know, we do have to be mindful. You know, he still does have his shoulders rooted into the floor, so he can potentially still kick me over. So I need to be mindful of that. So I'm here, I'm pinning his hips down, and I'm going to move. And notice as I move, I'm moving my body off that center line. I want to make sure that this knee stays on the outside of my center of gravity, right? Because if I collapse inward and it's further in, I'm very easy to get knocked over that way, right? So I rise up, I move, and then as I sit back, I'm going to extend my legs back, boom, right? But one of the things about this one is when I'm coming up and I'm tucking my tail like a scared dog, what that does is it actually kind of widens out my thighs a little bit, right? I'm not sure if you can really see that, but it does a little bit, and people actually tend to tell me that they feel a lot of that pressure. And when I tell people to do that, I can actually feel like my legs are getting pried apart a lot more just by having that tail tuck there, right? Then I get here, and what this does, but by pinning my palms down and keeping his hips glued to the ground and putting my knee behind his tailbone, now I've got this block so he can't follow me. If I was light here and I start to drive back, his hips will just kind of come up my thigh and I'm not going to break open those legs. So by keeping his hips down and I'm blocking that tailbone, now I drop back and I'm pushing pressure on the ankles, right? So think about it this way, right? I've got this kind of grip going on here, and you know, it might be strong this way, it might be strong this way, but by dropping my hips back, it's going both at the same time, and that's going to pry it apart. Does that make sense? So just be really mindful that it's not a disconnect thing, right? I'm just sliding back. You should be able to do it just as easily slow as you do fast, right? Once I get back here, you can do one of two things. You can pop your knee up, right? The front knee, which is the way that my coach does it. I find that because my weight's on this leg, not this leg is light. So I like to come here. Now when I'm here, I want to make sure that my foot is further out than my knee, right? If it's here, it's going to be very easy for him to pull me and come over top heavy, right? So I'm in this nice combat base. I've got a very wide base here, and I'm sunken back, right? So from here, he's not going to be able to re-guard. So let's go ahead and look at this pass from the other perspective, right? So the guy's between my legs. Now the earliest, and this is the guard break, right? It's not even the pass, but the guard break. So he's broken up in my guard, or he's working on breaking up my guard. So what I want to do here, guys, is that my first defense to maintain guard is I'm going to have my thighs out here, so I'm locked here, and I'm going to kind of drop my weight onto his thighs and lift my hips off the ground. Okay, and if I can do a little bit of a hamstring curl and get my hips high onto his thighs, right? So why would I do that? Now, if he starts to, try to hook me and pick me up from this position, which he might, right? Because I'm kind of unrooting myself a little bit here, I can put my head on the mat and use my muscles to try to push my head on the mat. And now I'm going to be a lot heavier for him to start to grab me and pick me up, right? Because I'm committing my head down. And it's an odd thing, but it actually does work. If he tries to move me one way or another, I got my elbows to kind of help me from getting tossed one side or the other, right? So I'm being heavy on his thigh, and I'm pinning my head down to the ground. And so if he tries to, once my legs are, the person who's playing guard, once their legs are up onto my thighs, I can't get my knee to that center position to break his guard open in the first place. So if I try, he's just going to follow me. It's still going to be connected. And now I'm kind of compromised here, right? So in that drop back, I've changed my base. I'm easier to get knocked over this way. So, if you see somebody they have their hips high off the ground, they're being heavy on your thighs, which is going to defend most of the guard passes here, that weight on my thighs and his hips being up is going to prevent me from doing that pass at all, right? And so that's going to bring us into that second break here, right? And we've talked about this before, is that now I can no longer do that pass, right? Unless I can figure out some way to get his hips back to the ground and glue them to the ground, it's not going to happen. So I need to move on to another pass. So the usual that we're going to go on to next is this guy. So his legs are still locked up around me, and we're sitting here high on the hips here. And so now I'm going to get here, right? And you can stomp down. I tend to like this better, right? Internal and external rotation of leg, and just keeping constant pressure on that thigh. So as the floor gets pulled out underneath that thigh, my thigh being the floor for his leg's going to move down, down. Okay? So when somebody, once you've kind of stopped that first pass and you know that they're going to go on to that second one, usually what's going to happen here is he starts to post that leg up. I'm not going to hold on to my guard here anymore, right? If I can, You know, if he still has a hand on my hip, I'm going to start to control that hand. And I'm going to, if it's that leg that he's posting up, I'm going to get under my side here, right? And then, just like in our warm-up, right, this thing, right, I'm going to take this leg, and I'm going to do a little circle. And I'm going to hook it underneath his knee right here, right? So I'm in this position, and my leg's going right there, right? You're not going to be able to, like, pull out and be able to push it back in, right? This is just going to be too far, and he's probably going to take advantage of that. He might smash you down or something like that. So I am unlocked. I'm still heavy here a little bit, and this really, really quick motion. Now, the reason why I'm grabbing this arm is that if I can grab wrist and tricep and start to drag it across my body, right? And when we talk about arm drags, guys, you saw that I kind of went, right? I did this little shake with my hips, because when somebody's arm, and especially if you're trying to drag it, if you just try to pull, they're going to pull back, and you're probably not going to be able to get that arm. But if you pin it to your hips, right, and you pull the floor out from underneath it, it's going to follow that. And then I'm here, right? So now he's going to be off balance here. I drop this leg close to the floor, if not all the way down. It's just a little trip so he doesn't move this other leg, but he can't, right? Because I'm starting to lift up on this hook just a little bit, right? And that's going to make this leg heavy. So he's not going to be able to move that. The only way that he can potentially stop this, right, is to take that far side, right? So I'm here. This is pinned down this way. If he starts, I have this post. But honestly, I don't think it's going to do much good, right? Because I'm coming over here. He still has a dead angle over there, right? So even if he posts, it's going to be up here somewhere, right? And so I can just follow up. When I get, you know, most of the way through this, guys, it's really important that I don't try to step to the mount, right? Because my leg is between his legs, right? So I've hooked here, right? So when I'm going over, if I continue to try to follow with my leg's going to be right here. He's going to lock up on that, and now I have to deal with a quarter or half guard situation. So, right, I got my little leg circle. I've got that. I've controlled this post. And even if I couldn't get it across my body, I'm still going to hold on to that so he can't take it over. And from there, I just kind of look, I follow, and see when I get half off, I'm going to pull my leg out, right? He's going to fall over no matter what. So I don't need to worry about kicking him up or following him all the way down. If I'm here, he's not going to be able to bring that other leg up to half guard me, right? So I'm going to take this hand, and I'm going to underhook and slide through into a scarf hold or switch base position. All right? So that's number 2. So number 3 would be if they're trying to stand and shuck me off. And I don't think I really covered this one per se. So basically I'm going to be here, I'm going to hold down his hips, I'm going to tuck up, and I'm going to go to this guy. Now, maybe he's about to put that hook in. Maybe I know that. I can feel him loosening up. So I'm going to shift my weight over to this side, right? Now it's going to be harder for him to get that hook in because I've closed up that space. But my center of gravity is still right here, right? It's between 2 posts. And I'm going to pick this one up, and I'm going to come back to center, okay? This is not the only way to do it, right? But it is a way to do it. So once I get up, right? So this is going to be setting up a lot of my high knee right passes. It's going to set up my Toriano passes and all that. He might follow me up. He might hold onto my head to follow me up. That's fine, right? So if he does that, make sure that you're protecting your back, right? Get a nice stronger back position and get into kind of more of a squat position and start to come up. So even if he's hanging on, guys, I'm going to move all my weight to one side here and focus on one leg. And I'm just going to go chuck, 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 down, right? And so from here, I'm here, right? I could just stomp that down, bump, bump, bump. But it's really important that I want to maintain as much of a straight leg as possible as I'm shucking that down. And then from here, I can come back down to my combat base, especially if he's still holding on my neck, right? Which is going to be very foolish of him at this point. Once I get kind of here, I do have to watch out, especially if I'm wearing a gi, for kind of lapel chokes and stuff like that. But he might go for a guillotine or something like that. So I do need to be mindful of that, but honestly, it very rarely happens that way. A lot of like higher end guys in tournaments will do that kind of shit, but you have to, but if you know if it's coming, you can start to defend it because he's not in the best position to set up those attacks, right? So let's say that he's not, right? He's not holding on to you to come up. And so let's go ahead and say the way that I stop that from happening is I put my hands into his biceps and I pinned his biceps into the mat. Now from here, I've had people say two different ways of doing this, right? One, and you have to be mindful of your center of gravity, though he's disadvantaged. He doesn't have much movement to knock you over because you're pinning his biceps here, right? So you can step in and sit back, stand up, and shut down, right? Notice when I'm checking down, this leg is light. I'm right all the way up on this one, and I'm getting that down. It's one of the things that's kind of an early mistake here is that people will come up into this position and they'll start to stand up and they're staying straight up. And this is going to go into what I would refer to as a mermaid sweep, right? So I'm here, the guy stood up on me. So what I'm going to do to kind of defend that is I'm going to unlock my legs, come down to the knees, relock them, and straighten them out. And so what that does is it moves me into this pee-pee dance position, and then the person who's playing guard just has to shake their hips a little bit, and I'm going to fall over because I've got no base of support anymore, right? So by coming over this way, and see I'm trying to force an external rotation of this hip here, and I'm all the way in this post, that kind of prevents me from getting that to that position, right, where he can actually pinch my knees together and take me over. So when we're talking about guard retention, I think we've kind of talked about the three primary ways that you're probably going to have your guard broken. There are probably several other ways of breaking the guard, but these are going to be kind of the three most common. Are going to be either that pushback break or the shuck break or a standing shuck break. And the other one that I didn't cover actually, which is basically the first one again, is I post up, I come up here, right? And then I'm going to take my knee and I'm going to put it right on his tailbone from standing, and then I'm just going to come back down, right? And my knee's going to pop up through his junk and all that. So a lot of times when I do this particular break, his legs do not open. And the thing about that is that I don't care. Right? I'm now in this combat-based position, right, where he can no longer lock back up on me. So all I have to do is pin my knee down somewhere, and I can start doing my knee cut pass, even if his legs are still locked up. I might have a little bit of a harder time doing it, but he's not going to be able to stop me really from doing it at that point. So now that we've gone over all that, the next video, guys, we're going to start talking about the different type of passes that there are, and how we're going to get back to guard with each of those passes, all right?